Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's Zuko, and welcome to the final pre-order roundup for 2024. We're talking about December, and there is a lot to get through. Now, if you saw my community post, you might have saw that, there was a chance I wasn't going to do this, but hopefully today it all gets recorded, and you don't have to worry about that. Let's start with the budget figures, of course, and the pop-up parades. There were a few noteworthy ones this month, including Female Byleth from Fire Emblem Three Houses for 5,500 yen. Now, if there's anything to criticize about this figure, it's her leggings, which don't have that same detailing that you saw from the Intelligence System scale figure, which makes sense. This is so much cheaper, but it's a very simple brown color here, with the pattern sculpted in, but you can't see the skin underneath, and that is admittedly a little disappointing. But again, it's a budget figure, so it's really not a big deal. Another noteworthy figure was Envy from Full Metal Alchemist. I think he'll come off as a little bit flat because of his outfit and hair both being black, and there's a little bit of red accents here and there, but really not enough to avoid the flat issue with this figure. However, I don't think most people are really going to care. It's just nice to get a figure of Envy at the end of the day, and I think he looks pretty good. There was also Arthur Pencilgon from Shangri-La Frontier for 5,500 yen. Frankly, I think her face looks very pretty. One of the better faces I've seen on a pop-up parade. Might just be the character design though. Very cool pose too, a little bit more dynamic than you typically see from pop-up parades, and the spear or weapon that she's wielding is pretty sick. Moving on, we also had Asuna from Sword Art Online, the Beach Queens version for 4,800 yen. Considering she's really wearing nothing besides the swimsuit, I think this should cost a little bit less, considering that is the standard price for a pop-up parade, and this is doing less in my opinion. It's a cute figure, I like the colors and the swimsuit design, but I think this should cost around 4,000 instead. Just a personal opinion though. And then there was Ryuma from Monsters, which I believe is that one shot from Oda of One Piece fame from back in the 90s, eating an onigiri, holding onto his katana and looking a little pissed off or disgruntled while doing so. Not bad. As far as the large pop-up parades go, we did get a re-release of the Hatsune Miku Vampire version for 8,800 yen, which proved to be an extremely popular release. Now, this one did disappoint me slightly because they took away a lot of her piercings in her ear, which I felt like was pretty integral to her design, but it's still a very charming figure thanks to the art style and her fangs and her girly K fashion. This outfit's adorable on Miku, so you really can't go wrong. I just don't know why they had to take away so many little piercings and whatnot from the original art. We also, though, had the Rika Takarada date style version, again, for 8,800 yen. Pretty simple, very comparable to Good Small Company's other date style figures, though all of those are scales at the 1/6 scale, whereas this is just a large size pop-up parade. And it's weird that they separated her from all of the other figures that they've made in this line, considering this would fit in perfectly with those other figures and look a little bit better to boot. Though this does still look nice, and the outfit's a great choice for her. The sweater dress and the leggings look wonderful, kind of accentuates her body a little bit, shows off her thighs as you would want with a Rika figure. But, you take a photo of any of those other date style figures from Oshinoko or the quintessential quintuplets. If they're wearing a sweater, you look at it, you look at this one, you could tell that it's a little bit muddier, a little bit, messy in its sculpting, doesn't look as crisp or as comfy. And I think that's a bit of a shame because I really like Rika, and I think this figure would have shined even more at the 1/6 scale. Besides those two though, we did have a figure of Chinatsu Kano, again 8,800 yen, from Blue Box, wearing what I assume is her basketball uniform, which I think makes this one very charming. The sportiness is just not something we often see, especially for female characters. I can't recall the last gym or basketball uniform figure I've seen outside of slam dunk stuff, so I just really like this one for being a little bit different. And then there was an SP figure this month of IP Masquerena from Yu-Gi-Oh! For 9,800 yen. Again, kind of a sporty figure in the way she's set up with the rollerblades. I really like her translucent jacket or hoodie that she's wearing. Maybe a cat girl, but a futuristic one because of that tail piping coming out of her back and the mask or visor that she has. A very shiny figure too, thanks to the metallic purple, gold, and silver paint all throughout her outfit, and she's definitely having a good time with that cheeky expression. It's a bit of a shame she needs to be supported by this extra acrylic rod, but at the same time, it's a little bit more of a dynamic pose and she's only on one leg, so I think it's reasonable. Megahouse had a few budget figures this month, including the Onimai I'm Now Your Sister Mahiro-chan palm-size version. 8,200 yen. Any figure where like Mahiro is flustered is usually going to be a cute one, and it must be because they just really do not like this outfit and are very embarrassed to be in it. If you're a fan of Dandadan, then you might be interested in the Serpo alien figure for 75,000 yen. Hide your banana organ. Now, they are actually making a 3-pack of this guy if you're interested, which makes a lot of sense considering there's usually 3 of them together, at least in the anime, unlike the episodes I've seen so far. But yeah, I just think it's kind of cool that they're going out of the way to make like other characters that you wouldn't expect from the series in figure form. The aliens, maybe some like yokai are coming in the future. Who knows? But this is definitely a nice start. And then we also had Sasuke in the Naruto Go line, where he's a lot younger. This one's going to cost you 8,800 yen. He's walking in front of what I believe is the Uchiha clan village. That just makes the most sense to me. And then there was a palm-sized version of Naruto without a shirt for about 8,000 yen. Frankly, I think his face looks a little bit weird. I'm not sure if it's his grin. I don't know if like the outline of his eyes are too thick or something, but it doesn't really look right to me. So I'm not personally a big fan of this one. But we're going to jump over now to Ami, talk about Furyu, their Tenatol series, which is pretty popular. 5,700 yen will get you this Yuki Osanai figure. Pretty simple, enjoying a crepe, walking along the sidewalk, nothing to really complain about. Alongside Yuki, though, was a figure of Atri from My Dear Moments Atri for about 10,000 yen. This one is a tall Tenatol, so keep that in mind, much bigger in size. But yeah, I think this one is very cute. They're using translucent plastic for her sailor dress, maybe because she's supposed to be at the beach or something, so perhaps it got a little wet, or maybe they just want to show off her legs. I'm not exactly sure, but that's the impression I get because usually she's shown off around the sea. So yeah, we also, though, speaking of sea, got a figure of Anna from Makaine, again for about 10,000 yen. And I wish I liked this one more. Big fan of Anna. Really like her fluffy hair, and the swimsuit is clearly the same one she wore in the anime, which looks great on her, but I don't really see Anna when I look at her face. I feel like they kind of got the art style wrong. At least her pose, though, does have this like fun spirit behind it, so it's not all bad. It's decent. I just wish the art style was a little bit more in tune with the anime's art style. El Coco had 2 Rem figures this month, which I guess is not that surprising. They do really like Rem. Here is the Sweet Bunny version, and this is the sportswear version, both for about 3,500 yen. And one is way more detailed than the other, despite the exact same price point. Now granted, Rem looks pretty cute here, I like the way her hair is styled and they're showing off her tummy, though I do think they should have made her skin like slightly shiny to make it seem like she was sweating, considering she's actually like dabbing herself with the towel. But the Sweet Bunny version is genuinely impressive to me at this price point. The shading on her leggings, a very glossy figure like the heels and her top, the plaid design around her shoulders, and the skirt is made of that like translucent plastic with a really nice starry pattern on it. The gold trim too. I feel like it won't look as good as these promo shots, but it is a very promising figure at that price point. Aniplex had a figure from Black Butler of Seal Phantom Hive, non-scale of course, for about 4,800 yen. Not a character or franchise I typically see when making these videos, so I would have to assume this is a pretty big deal to some people. Don't expect him to be too big or anything, but the armchair does look rather nice, and the school uniform is honestly pretty well sculpted as well. Even like the shading on his hair looks pretty good for this price point. So I'm just gonna say they did a good job. And then we jump over to the Honkai Star Rail Chibi Cat series figure of Jingwan. So this one's gonna cost you just about 10,000 yen. And I really like this background acrylic piece that they gave you. Not something I always love with like scale figures, but when it's a budget figure, I do think it makes it feel a little bit bigger and just like more complete. The overall pose of Jingwan playing with the cat, very cute as well. Though I wonder why we needed the cat's balls like front and center on the figure. I don't know what that adds, but they're there, so keep that in mind before you purchase. You are getting some cat nuts front and center on this figure. Moving on, though, we did have a bear panda figure of Mai Shiranui from the King of Fighters, of course, a 1/6 scale for roughly 12,000 yen. Last month, we had a similar situation where we got a Mai figure that looked nothing like her, but in that instance, it felt a little bit aimless and uninspired, where this one clearly has a vision, so I'm not really bothered by it. It has that, like, realistic art style approach to it. Not my thing, but it might be somebody else's. I don't think this is, like, a bad figure by any means. Frankly, I do think she's pretty, and I like this silky red dress that she's wearing. Very long legs, too. But really does not look like Mai at all. I do not see Mai in this figure whatsoever. And then, as always, a bunch of miscellaneous companies I've never heard of before getting into the fray, making some very affordable figures. This one, pushing it a little bit, 13,000 yen, but for a 1/4 scale, I think that is extremely good. So this is the Maid Cat Mochan, showing a lot of cleavage, and even coming with this, like, feather duster of sorts. Considering she's a 1/4 scale, you could probably use that to dust your figures if you want to, so added bonus. But yeah, most of these photos are just, they want to show off that chest sculpt, because it is good. It is honestly pretty good for this price. But I was trying to see if she was showing off her fangs. It kind of looks like it. Could also be lip gloss, though. I can't see from these photos, but maybe you guys can fill me in. Other than the cat girl, though, we did have a new bunny figure, Hina, another 1/4 scale for about 9,000 yen, made by Kawa Design. Could be a very good pickup if they deliver on that one, considering the price. We had the girl with glasses who doesn't want to go to PE class. The big highlight here for me, I would say, is just like the detail within the underwear. The bra and the panties look very good. We also had a figure of Migu-chan, illustration by Freng, another 1/6 scale for about 85,000 yen from Momo Roser / Galv. Don't know that company at all, but this is probably my favorite of, like, the miscellaneous companies that I've never heard of before. The design is just very cute. I like it a lot. I don't know if this would be considered, like, tiger lingerie. I think that's what they're going for here, even including, like, a very tiny little tiger cub on the tail. That's adorable. But yeah, I like her, It's a sexy one. Very busty, thick legs as well. Can't go wrong, and the face is super cute. And then we had one more budget figure with an extremely long name from Hanabi, a 1/6 scale, again for roughly 13,000 yen. So pushing it a little bit. Maybe you wouldn't consider that a budget figure, but 1/6 scales at this price, I feel like, are very affordable. So maybe I should just call this the affordable figure section. But yeah, I believe she's supposed to be like a teacher of some kind, maybe in anatomy class based off of some of these photos. That would make sense to me. Show off her body, so I guess you get a better understanding of the subject matter. But yeah, I guess that'll do it for our budget / affordable figures of the month. Kotobukikya really did not have that many new figures this month. A lot of re-releases, though, or variants, such as a re-release of Natsuno Minami and BJ from 13 Sentinels for 16,500 yen, Freddy vs. Jason's Jason Voorhees Bishojo Statue 2nd Edition also for 16,500 yen. I'm not sure on the distinction between, like, 1st and 2nd edition. Maybe the box is changing, but doesn't really seem like they say anything down here. But keep that one in mind. We also had Vermilio from Helk. Now this one's kind of interesting. Gonna cost you 21,000 yen, but this isn't a re-release. They just pushed her back immensely in terms of her release date, which I can't even recall when she originally was coming out, but it was many months for some reason. So I guess they just decided to put her back up for pre-order if you missed out. And I do think this one is kind of cool, with both of her fists engulfed in flames, spinning around. Has a nice spectacle to it. Moving on, though, here we have DC Comics Poison Ivy. This is the fall limited edition version, so she has this, like, autumn palette to her, which I think is very pleasant. 15,400 yen, very affordable. Seemingly exclusive to Ami and the Koto store in Japan, but also available at the Big Bad Toy Store in the US if you live here. We did have another variant, though. This is Vasta Stampede, the Gunman in Black from Trigun Stampede for about 23,000 yen. Quite a lot has changed here, though. It is a recolor, because originally he's wearing a lot of red, right? But this is like entirely black, his outfit this time. The hair is changed to look more like his original design from the 90s anime, holding this purple cube that I'm unfamiliar with because I'm not caught up with this series. And they changed the base completely, I think for the worst, though there is something fun about this redesign because this is very similar to the old Trigun figures. So it's almost like they're making a throwback with this design choice. But I do feel like overall this is just so much more interesting, and the perspective of it all was very neat. But yeah, I think he also does have some exclusive faceplates depending on where you buy them. 2 different store variants, which is very annoying, but they did do that last time with the original Vast Stampede figure. Anyway, as for the new stuff this month, we did have a figure of Tino Shade for about 25,000 yen. Pretty simple figure for that price point. Nothing really too detailed here to warrant that, in my opinion. I like her outfit. I like the boots and the belt, and the coloring is nice, and her face is cute. But I don't know. I feel like for 25,000 yen, maybe there should be something like for the base, like place her somewhere from the universe she is from. But they're not doing that, and there's also no bonus faceplate for this figure either. What you see is what you get. The kicking stance does make for a cool pose though. I do like it, but that's about it for 25,000 yen. And then the other figure we got was Subaru from HoloLive, her second version, the Suspenders figure, which I quite like. This outfit on her is amazing, very cute. Never realized that she was showing her panties though through the pants. I guess I never looked close enough. But 26,000 yen, in my opinion, feels much more reasonable in this instance. You got the stars and the sunflowers, the little ducks down there. Her bonus faceplate is extremely subtle. I saw this earlier. They're just changing like the shape or like the curve of the eyebrow so she looks a little bit more shy here, which is cute. Don't get me wrong. Both faceplates are very cute, but you would think they would do a little bit more, just change it up more so it feels like you're getting something like very different. But in this case, you're not. So I guess just keep that in mind. But overall, this one is great. I think, only 2 new figures really this month, but this one is definitely my favorite of the 2. Back to Megahouse, I had a few more premium figures this month, such as the Code Geass Kalin figure concession infiltration version for about 22,000 yen, wearing a very pretty red Chinese dress with this like nice metallic paint to it. Her face looks great, pretty accurate to the series, holding on to her outfit that she typically wears, like the pilot suit, though you can take that off if you're not interested. However, I think the pose looks a little bit stranger if you do take those extra accessories away, kind of like she's trapped in a glass dome or something that you can't physically see. We also had 2 one-piece figures. This is a new Nami figure from the Evolutionary History line for about 20,000 yen. Now, I don't really know what that means, unless it's specifically about the Egghead arc, which this figure is based around, or it's just Megahouse saying they've been making figures for 2 decades, and they've really upped their game since then. But a new Nami figure is never anything to complain about, and I think she's looking pretty good here. I like this sleeveless hoodie that she's wearing, a nice pink pearlescent paint to it, a very goofy gun that she's holding onto, but totally in line with One Piece. Same goes for her shoes, which remind me of something from like Mega Man, but overall it's just a fun design for the character, and while this is a relatively simple figure, I think it's an effective one at the same time. If we're going to talk about something that's not so simple though, here is a new figure of Marco from the Mass Maximum line for about 37,000 yen. This figure is ridiculous. Let's get a better shot of him so you can see him in his full glory, right? Such a colorful figure, so vibrant, the detail, the gradation in the wings and the electricity coursing through them, so dynamic as well. Hopefully not needing some extra supports because both of his legs are attached to those rocks that are jutting out of the ground, almost like they're exploding out of a volcano or something, like erupting in some sense. That might just be because this side is painted in like a really nice red, so it makes me think of like fire, magma, stuff like that. I don't know the specific scenario this figure is placed in or just like referencing, but man, this is so cool looking. Like I said it before, and I'll say it again, when Megahouse really wants to try, and they typically do with their big one-piece figures, it's always so impressive. Freeing continues to just throw darts at a board, hoping something sticks. There's a lot of variety this month from them, but will anything be exciting for you? I guess we'll find out. We did have some bare leg bunny figures of Rem and Ram. This is their second version, both for about 27,000 yen. Pretty affordable, but we've seen these figures in the past. We also got some Yukata figures for Shion as well as Shuna. I mean, they're pretty simple figures, but I feel like considering a lot of their bunnies cost around this much, and I would consider a Yukata to involve a little bit more work in the sculpting and the coloring, and I like the pattern work on both of them. The color choices are great here. I'm not offended by these price points, though, you know, maybe they should be a little bit cheaper. Probably their biggest figures this month were actually from Nier Automata. We got 2B as well as A2, both for 40,000 yen each. Now 2B I find to be the much more appealing figure in this instance. I'm a little bit more critical about A2, but there's really not that much to complain about. I think they nailed everything that they needed to. Her boots are really glossy, the thigh highs have some nice shading to them. Love this pose too, a great stance for 2B when you're not trying to be like super dynamic. And for once, you actually get like a swappable faceplate, so you can see what she looks like underneath the mask. Not something you often see on freeing figures, so it's just nice that they remembered to do that. Whereas with A2, I'm just left a little bit disappointed. Don't really like her face. Pose is a bit boring, no dirt to be found on this figure, which is definitely something that should be included on like every single A2 figure. Maybe it's different with the anime because that's what this figure is based on, but that's just not A2 to me. However, I will say that the spear looks immaculate. Easily the best part of this figure, very impressively done. I really like the way they sculpted it, and the paint is super shiny because of the gold and the gloss, so great stuff there. But it don't look like A2 otherwise, so I'm not a big fan of it. To wrap up the freeing section though, we did also have some Azure Lane figures. Here is TB Kind, Hot Spring version for 30,000 yen, and the Vorshalov Devoted as the Warm Snow version for 35,000 yen. Both of them really just wearing towels, that's the whole appeal of these two figures. There is like a slight translucency to both of their towels. I don't know if you could actually see through that or take it off, but I guess I wouldn't be surprised. Not really a big fan of TB's face here though. It looks like she literally has no teeth because of her mouth sculpt, so she's like sucking on her gums. I'm not a big fan of that. I wish they did that a little bit better. However, there is another TB figure. This one is actually a 1/7 scale, the TB Quiet version for 24,000 yen. The lone 1/7 scale from freeing this month, and frankly I think it looks a lot better than the other TB figure. A little bit more creative too, in the sense that like she's typing away on these digital prompts which are just like floating around her, but you know, sticking to her fingers or her arms, but it's pretty seamless from the front, so you're not going to think about that. And her expression doesn't bug me this time. Still looks very ghostly though in terms of her complexion, but that's just her character design, right? So nothing wrong with that. Phat Company actually had a pretty decent selection this month, including the re-release of Miyamoto Musashi from Fate Grand Order for about 25,000 yen. I'm sure this one has seen a price increase, you know, considering it's been 5 years. However, I think her design is great, very detailed, the pattern work in her outfit, 4 swords and sheaths, 2 of them are like ignited in flame with these flame wisps, and I like her face too, and the way her hair is styled. It's good stuff, for sure. We also had a new swimsuit figure, the tanned swimsuit version, a song and dance we've done time and time again. It's a cute figure. I like the swimsuit design for her. The beach ball is a nice touch. I feel like her neck looks a little weird though, like it's too long or too thin or something. Proportionally, it seems a little off to me. But other than that, it's decent, and this is also a 1/6 scale. We also had another swimsuit figure in the form of Yui from Blue Archive for about 27,000 yen. Pretty damn expensive, though this one is doing a lot with the base, right? She's got the massive suitcase behind her, which is like a third of her height. You got that like broken pillar in the back with like the little bush behind it, and the sand over the tiles. So not a lazy base by any means, and her ponytail is absolutely massive if you turn the figure around, so it's not like they're not trying. She's also got like the hoodie on her as well, but I think this one's kind of charming because of how like gloomy it is, how clearly disinterested in the beach she is, though there is a bonus expression where she's trying to crack a smile, which I think is very cute. So yeah, I kind of like this one, though I never feel good paying this much money for a swimsuit figure. but it's Blue Archive, and I don't see that many figures of Yui, so I would not be surprised if this one does jump up on the aftermarket, whereas I think Ryza will probably go down. But the figure I was very excited about this month was actually a new Daiwa Scarlet figure from Uma Musume. Unfortunately, she's about 30,000 yen, which I feel like is absolutely ridiculous at this point. Already, the Uma Musume figures I think are too expensive, like roughly 27,000 yen typically, so this one's like 10% more. Granted, she's looking glamorous, and this outfit is extremely detailed, clearly Christmas themed, looking like a present you're supposed to open, with the ribbons, the gold and green accents, and like the golden tiara this time. It's great. They also put pearls on the back of her hair, and the hair sculpt itself has such a beautiful flow to it. But also the color seems wrong. Usually it's more of like a brownish orange, but this is just red. I like the color, but it doesn't really seem accurate to Daiwa Scarlet. So I'm kind of conflicted, you know? I absolutely love this outfit on her. I think she looks very cute. I love the eye decals, the nice red they went with, but like I just don't want to spend 30,000 yen on something that will likely go down in price. Because it's a Christmas figure. Not that many people like Christmas figures. It's not like a Halloween figure that kind of works throughout the year. This one will just stand out as like, why do you got your Christmas decorations out? I do think overall this is the best looking figure from Phat Company this month, but I also am extremely biased. There was one more figure from them though, only on AmiAmi, because this is actually a cast-off figure. Here is Bunny Suit Planning Sophia F. Shearing Cow Bikini version. 1/6 scale for about 25,000 yen. For some reason, we're getting a lot of these cow bikini figures, cowkinis if you will. And I know the appeal of it, but I don't know why all of a sudden we're getting so many. There's at least 3, including this one, in this video that we'll go over. But this one goes a whole step further than the others and most that I've seen in this like cow bikini outfit, because he's actually including a tank of milk with a glass and like a little dispenser for it, which just leaves nothing to the imagination. I will say though, I like this cow fish thing because the fish is something that they associate with Sophia for some reason, and I just think that's kind of funny. But yeah, I mean, not a bad figure of her. I think the price is pretty decent too, considering she is a 1/6 scale, and you even get the grass, like the pasture for her. But yeah, I don't know why we're getting so many of these all of a sudden. Kadokawa also had like 5 figures this month, though nothing I really had too much to say about, unfortunately. I think this one is very cute, the Gun Gal Online Len light novel dress version, where she's striking the rabbit pose with her very pink poofy dress. I think it's very cute, and I like that it's very affordable at 17,600 yen. But I would say that's really the only reasonably priced figure from them this month. Here we have Saki Ayase, a school uniform figure, for 26,000. That's a lot. Granted, she tied her sweater around her waist, she's got her bag, and like her headphones, but still, this is a really simple figure, and I'm not seeing the justification in it. We had Mio Takamiya, the summer dress version, for 24,000 yen from Data Live, of course. I think this one's very cute. I like that she's splashing in the water very invitingly, like open-armed, right? And little purse with the bear charm is very cute. You do get the bonus effect of being able to take off her hat, I guess, but you know, I think this should be like around 20,000 instead. But they're taxing you, it's Data Live, so I think they just know it's pretty popular. And then we also had 2 more swimsuit figures of Yuki and Alisa from Alya Sometimes Hides Her Feelings in Russian, which is a series that was very popular for a time, but we didn't really see too many figures of these characters, both for about 23,000 yen each, which is, you know, a little bit too much again, but whatever. My biggest concern is that their beach bases look terrible in my opinion, and it's a copy-paste job. They both have the exact same beach base pretty much, and I just think it looks muddy, kind of looks like Play-Doh in this instance, especially the water. I don't have an issue with their swimsuits, I kind of like them in fact, but I don't know. I don't think they did their best work when it came to these two, and that's unfortunate. Solarain, oh boy, time to talk about these guys. So, they finally put up their Dreamy Diva figures of Rika, Akane, and Yume from Gridman Universe. And they hyped these up so much on social media. It was like the 12 goddamn days of Christmas for them, and that's not an exaggeration. They were counting down the days, showing off new merchandise, and showing off new photos of them. And frankly, I thought that was kind of fun. I think it was neat that a company actually like cared about their product so much that they wanted to make you, the consumer, as excited as possible. Frankly, more companies should do that. But regardless, they're here, and frankly, I find all three of these to be pretty dang good figures, very fashionable in a fun way, and honestly, I think Yume's figure turned out to be the best one. I just really love this leotard that's cut off halfway with the 3-layer jacket. The translucencies look the best on her figure. I really like the green sleeves, and her face is very pretty. Then you jump over to Akane, and I really like this slight edginess they went with in terms of her design. The flame sleeves and the spiky hat with the piercings. The vibes are kind of infectious here too because of her like cheery expression. And I don't think they exaggerated her proportions too much like they did with our next figure. Kind of just looks like Akane at the end of the day, but maybe with like a slightly larger bust, which isn't the worst thing ever, but also, I guess, not the most accurate. But I really do like this one. I really like this outfit on her. I think she looks kind of stunning. And then there was Rika, which, oh boy, people love to talk about this one, whether or not they absolutely love it or think this is character assassination. And that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but people aren't that happy that they made Rika extremely thick here, specifically her thighs, right? She's known for having very large thighs. That's just her thing. But on this specific design, they definitely went a little bit overboard. Now, to give Solarain some credit, they just copied some artwork and then turned it into a figure. However, they could have, taken their own artistic liberties with it if they wanted to, but they didn't. And I think they didn't want to do that because they knew this would catch more people's attention. So I can't really blame them for it. Though we're at the point where this miniskirt that she's wearing looks like it's actually about to explode off of her body just because of how tight that is, along with the band around the thigh as well. Now, do I hate this figure? Not really. I do think they, plumped her up a little bit too much, but at the same time, who am I to deny a thick thigh? I think Rika's outfit looks pretty great. The puffy jacket, the vibrancies of the red and blues, the edges being this like translucency looks really nice. Pretty skimpy attire underneath, especially compared to the other two figures in this line. Like, it is kind of crazy they went so hard on Rika's outfit in terms of like how revealing it is, but there's so many other figures of Rika, much more modest in their design. So I would just say if you don't like this one, you have so many other options anyway that it really shouldn't be that big of a deal. Solarain did have one more figure though, and I think it's pretty impressive. Here is the Black Rock Shooter Pilot Edition version for about 30,000 yen, which, considering the base of this figure, I think that price is perfectly reasonable, assuming they do deliver on this one. I think this figure looks very cool and manages to capture this like quiet, lonely side of her that we don't often see in figure form. Such a good idea to like incorporate her cannon into the base so she could sit on top of it, very high up, surrounded by all of these rusty chains and the blocks kind of like exploding out of the bottom portion. It looks really cool visually, definitely a treat for the eyes. And then up top, there is so much like billowing and flow with the jacket, her hair, and the flame streak of her eye, right? Really extending outward just to make it feel like it's very windy up there. And apparently you can take that piece off, but like, I wouldn't do that unless it's really fragile and you're like afraid of breaking it or something. Few more figures before we get to our next bigger discussion. Here is Hana Uzaki cow bikini version. Once again, another cow bikini. This one's going to cost you about 20,000 yen and is made by Wave. I should have mentioned that earlier. Last one in the series to finally get her cow bikini figure, which is weird because she's the main character. But at least they didn't forget. Crazy shot right here from the back. Wave also had their Kanade Hayami figure from the Idol Master. She's going to cost you about 30,000 yen. We saw an extremely similar figure to this last month with Kaide, who you can see in this photo right here, wearing very similar like flared gowns with the feathers going down them, and you have like all of these gems and jewels adorning the dress as well. A lot of lace incorporated into the design with the gloves and the sash, right? Very pretty stuff. Pony Canyon had a figure of Liliel, the training suit version, for about 23,000 yen from 2.5 Dimensional Seduction. A very glossy, like, leotard-style outfit this time around. And I think because of her pose and that leotard-style outfit, her legs are really emphasized here to make them look a little bit more attractive. And I think the end result, while simple, does look pretty good. Also seems like the wings this time, and I'm not sure if this is different across the figures, but they are translucent on this figure, if you care about that. Luminous Box had a very simple figure of Megumin for about 15,000 yen. Nothing of real note here, but nothing to really complain about either. I do like that they made her boots glossy, because that just stands out to me, but everything else is pretty much what you would expect from a simple Megumin figure. DMM Factory had their Toshishita Kanajo illustration by Nabi figure for 27,500 yen, which is the price they always choose, and that bugs me so much. I feel like every figure they make should not be the exact same price. However, this one is extremely cute and very nicely painted, if I might add. I really like her bangs, as if sun or some light is beaming down on her and it's making her hair look a little bit shinier. And the way they painted her dress, originally I thought they were just using translucent plastic for the edges of it, but it just seems to be like a lighter, softer paint that's gradating from the black dress, so that looks really good too. There's just some nice stuff on this figure. The pearl butterflies, the latte art, which seemingly just seems like a heart plopped into a brown drink, but you know, they're trying at the very least. Really love the flowers though in the pot. That looks very pretty, kind of completes the whole figure, and it looks so soft too, as if you could actually pull the petals off if you wanted to, though why would you do that? But I'm just saying, they look delicate, and I really do love that part of the figure. And her nails are painted in this very pretty pearlescent pink, so yeah, I don't know, really nothing to complain about besides I think it's a little too expensive, but at least it's very cute and very nicely painted for once. Alright, so next up we're going to talk about Proof, because they have decided to start making Ranma figures. And their first one up is actually Shampoo, which is nuts. Now, if you don't know anything about me, Shampoo, one of my favorite characters. If I were to make a list of waifus, she would be among the top 10. So it's kind of crazy that I'm even looking at this right now. Though I think it's even crazier that I might not actually pick this up. And it really doesn't have anything to do with the quality. It's just not really what I was looking for in terms of a Shampoo figure. Now, I could nitpick this a little bit. While I know this Chinese dress is based off of some official art from back in the day, and it does look good on her, I personally don't like how stiff it looks. If you look around her feet, right, doesn't that just look a little awkward? Why isn't it kind of draping down over her feet and wrapping around them? I don't really like that, and I'm sure there's different types of Chinese dresses and this might be accurate, but I just don't frankly like it that much. I also think it's kind of weird that the rippling water kind of just ends at some point. I don't know what the final base will look like, but the fact that they're showing it like this means that it's just going to be some disc with a certain color to it. And it will likely look a little bit awkward instead of trying to make it look like the environment. Maybe some grass or rocks around it would have kind of completed the base, right? Everything else, though, is pretty lovely. The concept having her perched up on this tree with the leaves, the sakura leaves or petals blooming and they're falling down and rippling on the water. I love that they gave her that umbrella. That big splash of red looks really nice in the back. You get up close and her face still looks pretty. I love the eyeliner of these Ranma characters and her lips. A little bit of lipstick. Her mouth looks very small, but it's still cute. Yeah, I'll definitely consider picking this one up, but it didn't initially win me over and it still hasn't yet. But who knows, right? If this is the only Shampoo figure, I think I would end up buying it, unless it skyrockets in price because I didn't pick it up initially. Who knows with these Ranma figures, because there's really not that many out there. Intelligent Systems again surprises us with a new Fire Emblem figure, this time Edelgard from Three Houses, which pretty much confirms we're gonna get Claude unless they're madmen who just want to piss people off. But right now, we have Edelgard. Initially, when I first saw this figure, I wasn't really blown away. Maybe that's because I'm not the biggest fan of her or anything. I think she's cool. In fact, she was the route I chose when I initially played the game. But some of the other photos really make this figure look pretty spectacular. For some reason, the back of her cape looks so good to me. I don't know what it is, but I am in love with this cape from the back. The front, which is technically the back, if you know what I mean, but the inside with that violet color, doesn't do that much. I like that it breaks away from all the red of Edelgard, but man, the shading and the wrinkles and the gold accents, it looks so good. The crest on the back too. I wish that was like seen from the front. Her face looks great though, up close, and like that headpiece too, that shiny gold paint that's inked with black so it highlights the like the edges of the horns. In fact, I think the gold accents, like all of her just buttons and decor, is really important to like the fronts of Edelgard. Otherwise, I think the red comes off as a little flat. Not from the back, on the cape, but the front. I think it could have used like a little bit more shading, or maybe some more wrinkles on like the dress portion in the front here. However, everything else does look pretty outstanding, and her axe is awesome. I do forget the name of it though. I know Byleth uses it in Smash when he goes down B or down smash or whatever, but it's so big, it has such a presence to it. I'm sure this figure is gonna also have a very like substantial presence in your collection because it looks kind of wide. And yeah, it's just really cool to continue to get these Fire Emblem figures. I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot starting off so cheap, because 20,000 initially for like Marth and Ike was outstanding. 31, it kind of makes you think a little bit more if you actually need this or not. Good Smile Art Shanghai had 2 figures this month, including the Lucia Crimson Weave version from Punishing Grey Raven. Now, this is one that I definitely raved about in the past, and nothing has really changed considering she was painted quite a while ago, and now she's finally here for about 27,000 yen. Frankly, I can't think of anything that new to say about this one, because I remember talking about it quite a bit. My favorite part is definitely her ponytail, which just has this like really cool motion to it, almost as if like it's making a spiral if you look at it in a certain way. But there's a lot of detail packed into this one, from like the design of her pants and like her tattered coat that she's wearing, like the wrappings or whatever that is around her arm. Very colorful figure too, a lot of like red, just like very bold red to make it more striking and just like kind of pop out at you. Just a cool character design that I'm sure a lot of people will like, especially if you're into the series. But yeah, Good Smile Art Shanghai also had Modernia from Nikkei, again for 27,000 yen. I guess we'll scroll down here to these 2 photos, kind of giving you like the charm points, the money shots, right? What you're really looking for in a Nikkei figure. Super glossy, like underneath the suit and the dress. Not exactly sure if she's like an android, a robot, something like that, made out of mechanical parts because she's injured. You guys let me know in the comments. But still very voluptuous, and that gloss only helps but like accentuate the charm points of the character. Seemingly though, you can take off like her weapons and her wings, which I think look very sick, and I probably wouldn't do that, but having the option is always better than not, so it's just nice that they allow you to customize her in a few ways. The wings and the weapons having that like gunmetal paint just looks excellent in contrast with everything else. I don't know if I'm in love with her face, but that just might be like the art style, that just might be the specific character in this instance that's not like for me specifically. But overall, a very nice one, and pretty ambitious too, with a reasonable price tag in my opinion. And to wrap up this part of the video, we're going to conclude with Good Smile Company scale figures, starting off with Accrued, the Inner Sea of the Planet version, 35,000 yen. If I had to guess, this is a 1/7 scale, but we could check if we scroll down over here. Actually, a 1/8 scale. Kinda hurts it a little bit. 220 millimeters in height, not that big. However, a very wide figure, which some of these photos do illustrate. The volume of her hair and the dress is quite the spectacle. This is a very pretty figure. Really like the colors, hair looks wonderful, and if you're still questioning that price, they did like sculpt 100 flowers or something underneath her, which definitely takes a lot of time and money to do so. Not, you know, a version of Accrued I typically see, because I'm not very familiar with this series, but man, she does look lovely. She's very elegant feeling, and even at the 1/8 scale, I think because of her width and just like the circumference, she will still have a pretty large presence in your collection. But I think our next figure from Good Smile Company is most likely the fan favorite of the month, and that's the Shizuku Kuroe cosplay by Marin. A 1/6 scale for 21,000 yen, and a very impressive sculpt at that. frankly, I'm not like into the whole Shizuku cosplay for Marin. I like Marin normally when she's not wearing cosplay, or the Liz one a little bit more. But man, she looks gorgeous here, and there are elements of this figure that frankly look too good to be true. Like when I first saw her leggings, I genuinely thought that was fabric that they were using, but it's not. It's just sculpted plastic with the pattern underneath. That's really impressive, you know? Her nails up close also look really nice. They have like a slight glittery, sparkly effect to them. Lips with the lip gloss, the eye decals are very pretty. Hair doesn't seem like it has that much shading to it, but I think because of everything else, you're not really gonna get that concerned about that. Also, not to get too degenerate here, I'm just appreciating the fine arts, but the way her top looks so tight on her, that her chest is actually kind of struggling to stay in place is so well done. There are plus 18 figures that wish they had chest sculpts like this, and that's not an exaggeration. I think it looks that good. Good Smile Company cooked. And for 21,000 yen too, that's ridiculous. This might be one of the best figures in this video. However, there was one more figure from Good Smile Company this month, and it was in fact Chainsaw Man, or Denji, for 27,800 yen. Came out of nowhere, don't think this was ever shown off, but a pleasant surprise nonetheless. And they went with something very dynamic, covered him in blood. Even the base is just like a huge splash of blood on the bottom. And I love that his like tongue is out, the mouth is open, it's real visceral, as it should be. Though, frankly, as cool as the pose is, as he's leaping in the air, covered in blood, right? But I think the lack of gore really hurts this one. The fact that Denji doesn't have like devil guts on his chainsaws on the arms, or his head, or like the explosion of blood on the bottom is just seemingly coming out of nowhere, just makes it feel like something's missing. And I'm not like an edgelord, I normally don't need stuff like that. But it's kind of like the identity of Chainsaw Man, right? Like if he's hacking somebody up, there's gonna be something attached to him. Eyeballs, skin, guts, like their heart, just something down there. Even like a devil or like a zombie exploding on the bottom would have been nice. But they just left it with blood, and it just, I don't know, makes it feel a little bit less serious as a result. I don't know, but it is definitely very well done. Outside of one other nitpick, I wish the teeth had a little bit more blood on them, because why wouldn't they? I feel like if blood is splashing everywhere on him, his teeth shouldn't be so pearly white. But maybe I'm just being ridiculous right now. You guys let me know. I'm not probably going to buy this one because I still like the E-Stream version that I have, but I do hope they continue to make more Chainsaw Man figures, because I definitely like this one, just not in love with it. Alright, so normally I like to talk about Alters figures towards the end of our videos, just because I think it makes for a slightly more interesting conclusion, and hopefully you'll stick around for it. But today, I want to talk about them right now, because I have a little bit of a rant specifically regarding this figure, and I figure it's best to get it out of the way now. So this is the Rin Yurocamp 3-wheeled motorcycle version, a 1/10 scale for about 31,000 yen. Now, I don't actually have a problem with that price. I think a lot of people do because she is on the smaller side and that's a lot of money, but think about actually sculpting a motorcycle out of plastic, and normally companies ask at least like 20,000 for just the character themselves, especially when it's like a school uniform figure. 20,000 for that doesn't make a lot of sense. But at least in my mind, when you actually have to like sculpt a vehicle and make it look realistic and believable, like it could actually work, I think it's okay to ask for a little bit more money. So I really don't have an issue with that. What I do have an issue with is that literally who was asking for this? And I know somebody out there will say, me, I was asking for this. This figure's awesome, and I'm very happy for you. But it's weird to me that Alter just continued to ignore the requests of so many people who just wanted a re-release of the original Rin figure. Another 1/10 scale, but she was on her scooter, the one that she rides throughout the series, and the one you're most familiar with if you like Yurocamp. This bike, frankly, I don't know where it's from. I just watched the show, but it's like a special they made, and I think it was like an advertisement at the same time, and apparently nobody even liked this episode. They thought it was weird. So it's strange that they would make this into a figure, because it just didn't seem like there was any demand for it. Now, I'm not going to pretend like the customer always knows best compared to these companies. Usually they know what's going to do pretty good on the market, But this one seems a little tone deaf. This one just seems like maybe they had to make this, maybe they were contracted to do so, but I don't really get who's gonna buy this unless they really, really like Rin. And that's understandable. Rin's a great character, especially if you already have like her other figures, you just want another one in your collection. And like I said earlier, I think this honestly looks great. Like, I think the sculpting of the scooter and Rin herself are phenomenal. Love the way this figure's painted, the glossy bike and the shading on her outfit. If anything, Rin probably looks better here than she does on that other figure. But most people don't care. Most people just want the version of Rin they're familiar with and not the figure that might technically be better in terms of sculpting and painting, but doesn't mean anything to them on a personal level. If you're buying Camp figures, it's probably because the show resonated with you and you really like the characters. And this figure doesn't capture the magic of the show at all. So it's just weird that they would do this. But I'm not knocking the quality whatsoever. I'm just a salty fan who wished that I watched Camp years ago so I could have picked up that original figure. So yeah, I'm a little bit bitter about it. But at the same time, I've seen so many people complain about this one. And it's really not like the figure's fault, it's just that people would rather have had the other figure previously. But now it's like a weird situation because when would they re-release the original figure? Because they can't do it now, they'll kill the sales on this one. But I know for a fact that collectors are very stubborn and they want what they like, so I don't think people are just going to jump to this one because they couldn't get the other. There are other figures of Rin that they'll probably get instead and just hope that one day Alter releases what they actually want. It's like a weird betrayal in a sense because there's no way Alter didn't know that people wanted the original figure of Rin because they have to. Like, the aftermarket is very obvious. They have made the figures, and it would just be insane to me if a company didn't know about or looked into the aftermarket on the figures that they've released or the demand for them, because they do re-releases all the time, and that has to come from somewhere, people talking about it and wanting it. But not this time. You have to get the three-wheeled motorcycle version of Rin this time. But I don't know. There's my rant for you. I think that's the only one I'm going to get really passionate about in this video. But Alter also did have another figure this month, one that proved to be pretty popular. Here is the Azur Lane Glorious Chinese New Year version, a 1/7 scale for about 30,000 yen. Originally, I think they called this the Pungent Plum version, which definitely was more memorable, even though I thought that name was kind of funny. Either way, this figure is outrageous with how much they're showing of her. Now, I don't think this is a plus 18 figure, but it could be. They're certainly not showing that though. But this beautiful kimono, this shiny metallic red they went with, so wrinkled and creased, the folds look immaculately sculpted, is halfway off her body. Her butt is just out there. And surprisingly, you can actually take this off, which I never knew. And while that might be sexy enough for you, have you ever seen the front of this figure? It's even more ridiculous. But that's Azur Lane for you, you know? That's what people want from their Azur Lane figures, and there's no doubt in my mind this is a very popular one. She is gorgeous, and not even just the body, her face is extremely pretty. Those eyes are kinda to die for, the eyelashes specifically, but they go alongside really nicely with her hair strands, slightly messy, but the individual strands go a long way to just make her hair sculpt look a lot better than, any other figure. Look at the hair tied up, that's crazy. I bet most people didn't even look at that aspect of this figure, because why would you? You don't need to. You look at this and you're like, oh, I'm sold. I'm sold, 30,000 yen, okay, I'll buy two. But yeah, those were Alter's figures for this month. We'll move on though to Amakuni. I think this might be their only figure this month, and it's another cow bikini figure. Here is the Toru cow pattern bikini version for about 20,000 yen, which I'll give them credit considering their pricing lately. This is way less than I thought it would be, and I think because of that, more people are actually going to be interested in this one. Now, I've said in the past that I actually quite like this figure. Not a cow bikini guy, that doesn't really mean anything to me, but it's just the whole juxtaposition of this figure. Maybe it's because, they're basing this off of, say, the manga's art style, and the proportions are a little bit different in the manga compared to the anime, but her chest looks so exaggerated from what I'm used to, yet they gave her the cutest face I've like ever seen on an anime figure. And I genuinely do mean that. Her face is insanely infectious in how cute it is. But also, it's just like, wow, she is so curvy on this figure that it's very hard to ignore. But yeah, there's really nothing else I need to say about this one, because if I just go through these photos and show you what this figure looks like, you probably know if you're into it or not. That face is adorable. It looks so squishy, but I guess so does the rest of her body. That's it from Amakuni though. I think that one's crazy in a good way. We'll move on now to Q, another favorite company of mine. Here is a re-release of Mushoku Tensei's Roxy Changing Clothes. I think they actually increased the price on this one quite a bit. I don't remember her being 20,000 yen, and I feel like that's kind of disappointing if they already increased the price on this one, because this figure is not old at all. Here's a figure from Strike the Witch of Yukina, the bunny girl style, for 18,000 yen. I suppose the thing that makes this figure slightly unique is that she's kind of straddling a pool stick in a sense, and I like the way they sculpted her fingers. They look good to me. Otherwise, relatively simple though. The biggest figure from Q's though was their Falslander Hex 1/7 scale for about 23,000 yen. Frankly, I thought this would cost more money, but that isn't the case. I think 23,000 yen for a Falslander figure is perfectly reasonable. And this one's probably like the most expressive, perhaps too much because all of the other girls don't really have a lot of emotion behind like their expressions. And I don't know, she kind of stands out for that reason. I think she's very cute, but maybe doesn't really belong in the same line as those other wing figures. I guess if you collect them, you let me know because I don't own any of them. But her design is honestly awesome. The scepter as a main weapon, I like her big puffy cushiony sleeves with the gauntlets for the fists. She's got like this really nice pattern work on her leggings, which I think we could find a photo right here. That looks really clean as far as the printing goes, so I gotta give it up. Even up close, you could see like some nice wrinkles in the suit. The armor aspect to her design, mainly seen in her boots, those look amazing. Got a very fluffy tail too. I don't really care for that, but I guess it fits her character anyway. Like, it doesn't look out of place, just doesn't really do anything for me. But it's cute, face looks great. I like the rabbit ears or whatever animal she's supposed to be, hard to say. Yeah, I think this one turned out fantastically, and considering it's Q's Q, I bet it'll look even better in person. Claynel is up next. I really need to buy one of their figures because I love a lot of their work, including these two, Vanilla and Chocola from Nekopara, the dreamy cute China versions, 1/7 scales for 24,000 yen each. You can buy them together. I don't have that listing in front of me, but maybe I'll put it on screen right now. It'll roughly cost around 50,000 yen, I'm sure, though I do forget if there is a bonus included if you get the set. Now, I have to imagine if you're a fan of pastel colors, and these two are likely pretty dang exciting. Even if you're not into Nekopara, you gotta admit these soft colors are just like really well done. And my favorite part is easily the way they painted their hair. Even the sculpts are great, but like the brown to red looks so good on Chocola, and then you jump over to Vanilla, and it's like a similar situation with the white to green. It just looks lovely to me. And I think some people might say that these two look a little bit garish just because there's so many colors, and maybe they don't think the combo works as nice as I do, but I don't know, I wouldn't agree. I think they're really cute. They also have these like acrylic background pieces for their bases, which, you know, when the figure's so expensive, I'm not usually the biggest fan of them, but the design matches alongside with their outfits. Kinda looks like a neon light thing, but they don't light up, unfortunately. That would have elevated this figure, or these figures, to such heights that it would maybe have even been like some of Claynel's best figures ever, but they didn't decide to go too hard, unfortunately. But they do have some like very colorful tiles down there, and the clouds with some nice gradients as well. Spiritale made another Marin Kitagawa figure from My Dress Up Darling, another 1/6 scale. This is the swimwear version for about 25,000 yen. And I wish I liked this one more than I did. Not that it's a bad figure though, I just don't really like the pose they went with. It's a little bit more suggestive, which is fine. A lot of Marin figures have that element to it, but I think it looks a little awkward in figure form, so it doesn't really do that much for me. Thankfully, you know, they nailed her face as they typically do. Both expressions are great. And once again, they're adding a lot to the base this time with their clothing and her bag and that chain down there. Seems like you're getting a rug this time instead of that silky sheet, because they were supposed to be like on the bed with the Liz figure. But yeah, I mean, it's good. I don't think it's bad. I think it just isn't for me. I think the Liz one looked a little bit better. But also that scene is so memorable, and I do think she looks cute in the Liz cosplay. At the end of the day though, still a good Marin figure from Spiritale. I wanted to talk about this one next. Here is Fate Grand Order's Berserker Morgan, non-scale for 18,700 yen. A figure that I like continuously forgot to talk about whenever they showed her off at like one hobby or one fest, wherever it was. I just kept missing it for some reason. And it turns out this figure is actually kind of small at 160 millimeters, which is very disappointing considering she's also kind of expensive, and I feel like this design is a little wasted at that scale. This golden throne is such an eye-catcher, not even really sure what it's made out of, all of these golden strips that are rising out of the ground and that huge blue circle behind her. It's almost like reflective in a sense, maybe just glossy, but I really do love the way this throne looks. That red on the inside of her dress really pops as well. Very pretty character design, love the colors of this figure. Why is it small though? Why does it have to be 160 millimeters for almost 20,000 yen? I know it's Aniplex, a lot of their stuff is like pretty expensive, but I think they should have just made this at least a 1/8 scale, and then people probably wouldn't be upset about it. But I think when it's this small, you're gonna lose a lot of your customers, unfortunately. So personally, I feel like they kind of squandered this one a little bit. Magiarts put out another Toho figure. Here is the True Horror Third Eye Satori Deluxe Edition for 26,000 yen. We saw her sister last month, Koishi, which I thought turned out to be a pretty great looking figure, even if it wasn't for me. And I feel like this is a pretty similar scenario, like on a technical standpoint, in terms of like the sculpting of her very frilly outfit and the shading of her hair and that dress as well. It all looks top notch. And I don't really have that doll issue I have with some of the other Magiarts Toho figures where I don't really like the art style. I honestly do. I think she looks very cute here. There are a lot of similar elements, like the eye kind of just erratically circling around her, though for Satori, the eye is usually open, and there are some thorns on the bottom of the base, which look pretty good here too. Besides the other faceplates, which you could see here, as well as here, it does seem like you could take off at least one of her slippers as well, which I guess is a nice bonus. Moving on though, here is a figure from Apex of Azur Ulrich von Hutten, essentially a Race Queen style figure for her, for about 30,000 yen. All of these Race Queen figures from Apex have proved to be pretty dang good, some cast-offable and some not, but who knows what the fates of Ulrich will be. However, this one looks pretty damn sexy regardless. Despite the zipper, I would not call those pants. I don't really know what I would call her outfit outside of like the really sick jacket that she's wearing. I'll just say it kind of looks like a swimsuit to me because she's revealing most of her body. But it does have that nice glossy look that most Race Queen figure outfits have. Now I can't recall if the other figures have this because I don't own them myself, but did the wheels that were included with them, I don't know if both of the figures of like Baltimore or Prince had this, but the wheels have spokes here, which make them look really nice. I cannot recall if the other wheels had those spokes, but I really like that detail just to make them look like they're ready to go. These will be the wheels that are popped into the car when it's ready to like change them out, right? I don't know, I just can't remember seeing that, and it just looks really nice as she's leaning against them. Also has some sexy looking boots and the flag billowing in the wind behind her. Just looks great as a backdrop. Very dark palette for a Race Queen figure, but it is Ulrich von Hutten. What would you expect? Wouldn't be surprised if there is like a bonus faceplate here. I think, yeah, she's like licking her lips, which is definitely in character, but I don't know if that's the only one. She's really not wearing that much. There's a little Manju down there with the race flag, very cute. Yeah, this one's great. I think I just like her though. I think Ulrich is one of my preferred Azur Lane girls. Apex also put up an Arknights figure this month. Here is the Golden Glow Maiden for the Bright Night version, 1/7 scale, about 30,000 yen. What a precious Christmas figure this is. Adorable stuff, love the colors, love the theming. I'm assuming this would be like her weapon, the staff. That's like a globe and a wreath with like the ribbon. That's just so inventive. There's like candy cane elements to it as well. I just wish these photos weren't so zoomed out. Even just now I realize that like there's snow on the bottom with like presents and a tree and like a little snowman. This is so cute. Pom-poms on the dress, the tail tied up in a ribbon, her sweater looking nice and comfy, the stitching super clean, the shading on the green, excellent stuff. There's like a little bunny coming out of her book bag. It's just chock full of details. Glitter on the dress, you wouldn't even see that if you didn't get up close. Man, it's impressive. This is crazy. I don't even know what's going on. This is probably dangerous as a weapon, but it sure looks festive. And then last up from Apex is a Zenless Zone Zero figure of Neko Miyamana, 1/7 scale for about 22,000 yen, which rounds out their first 4 figures from this series. And I'm really wondering who's gonna come next. I know people really like the Rat Girl. Ellen Jo is a favorite from just like a design standpoint for me. Bernice seems very popular. There is just a lot you can make from Zenless Zone Zero, and I'm wondering how long it's going to take before we get another character from the series. Out of the 4 characters we did get so far in figure form, Neko Miyamana was probably the one I knew the least about. I feel like I have not seen her that often. As somebody who does not play or follow the game, but she's definitely cute. A lot of cat motifs as you would expect on her sleeves, on her heels, that's very cute. Not even just like the paw pad, it seems like the design of the heels actually look like a cat's foot. Surprisingly has 2 tails, though maybe they're robotic, or who's to say, maybe they are part of her character. Either way, it's a pretty similar story to the other Zenless Zone figures where there is a lot of detail to these character designs, and Apex is just doing a wonderful job bringing them to life and giving them great poses too, and putting them on those film reel bases for whatever reason. I'm sure that makes sense to you guys who play it, but it does give them that mini riser aspect, which I always do like, because sometimes it's hard to organize your shelves depending on the height of the character. Color palette's great, face is very cute. Seems like there's a barcode on her forehead, which is kind of funny to me. Anyway, that's gonna do it for Apex. Going back to Furyu, we actually had some Dandadan figures from them of Momo, Seiko actually, as well as Turbo Granny, though this one is a soft final figure, if that matters to you. 22,000 yen for Turbo Granny and 23,000 yen for the other 2. I don't think any of these figures are particularly that exciting. I do think it's nice that somebody actually made a Seiko figure, because I just don't see that many scale figure companies actually doing this. I feel like we'll see a decent amount of like prize figures for her, but I don't see like Alter, Amakuni making Seiko figures. They might, she's definitely popular, but we haven't heard anything yet. Momo, I think, just doesn't really look right. Something about her nose and like her face looks a little off to me. I do like the hair sculpt though. Think they did a great job there. And actually incorporating her psychokinesis abilities is pretty neat, I'll admit. The big ass hand, it's kind of cool, but definitely not my favorite figure I've seen of her. And then Turbo Granny, very simple. This is like a 1-to-1 scale, so it's just if you want a big figure of this in your house. And that doesn't sound like a bad idea. Though it's not very expressive. Like sometimes Turbo Granny can make some very goofy ass faces when, you see her in the cat form, but not here. It's just like a cuter version of Turbo Granny, I guess, which is fine, because I like this too. But yeah, that's about it. Furyu is also continuing to release some Overlord figures. This month, they put up their Yuri Alpha figure, a 1/7 scale for about 22,500 yen, a character that frankly I have never seen another figure for, so I'll give him the thumbs up for that. And then we also had a VTuber figure of Amasuka Uto for about 20,000 yen, very cute, light color palette to her, a lot of translucencies used for like the ribbons, just overall a cute, pleasant figure, but a simple one. If you want to talk about a figure that came out of nowhere though, here is Design Coco's Hosho Marine from HoloLive for about 27,000 yen, who looks great. I think this figure looks just like her, and I would love to get it if I didn't already have 2 figures of her, one that I own and one that I pre-ordered, so I really don't need another, but having Marine on this huge chest of golden coins is a great idea, and she's showing off her body a little bit with her pose, as I'm sure, she told the people sculpting this to do, because it is a great pose, right? Like, I think they really did capture a great cute side of Marine on this figure. I'm really wondering like how they're doing the coins, because I doubt they're just gonna like actually fill in a treasure chest with a bunch of loose coins. It's gotta stop somewhere. They have to sculpt that so it doesn't fly all over the place. But I'm definitely curious on that aspect. But damn, the body looks great on this figure. Like that sheer material for her tummy, the legs, even the armpit looks pretty good. But Design Coco also had a new Snow Miku, which is definitely a nice surprise. This is the Skytown 10th anniversary version for 35,000 yen, which is definitely pushing it for a Hatsune Miku figure. Like for that price, this better be spectacular. And it certainly looks good, but I don't know if it looks 35,000 yen good. The standouts for me, I guess, would be like the way they did her twin tails, where it's got like a really nice twirl to it as it goes down the base, starts to become translucent, and decorated with those snowflakes. It definitely looks pretty, and there's a lot of snowflakes on the bottom of the base, seemingly just translucent plastic, though it seems like they're also going out of their way to not make like any two look alike, as the saying goes, which I don't know if that's actually true because I can't see them up close, but I do appreciate that they're trying to like make it as varied as possible down there. Though I kind of wish they weren't so see-through. I wish they were like maybe a little bit more white or blue, because as it stands, I don't really love the way they sculpted the snowflakes down there. The fact that she's wearing mittens though is adorable. I like the mittens. It's very cute. And her face is great too. And the palette overall, very cool and refreshing because it's just like an icy white and blue. Really easy on the eyes, super cute face, good design. I mean, they didn't mess with the whole Snow Miku thing too much, but you know, it's effective. I just don't think it's really worth 35,000 yen. But it's a nice one. It's charming. Megahouse Entertainment had 3 figures this month from what I can gather, including 2 figures from The Demon Girl Next Door Season 2, Shadow Mistress Yuko, wedding version, as well as Momo Chiyoda, wedding version, both for about 21,000 yen. Cute wedding style dress figures, nothing super noteworthy here. I think I like this one a little bit more because she is like a demon girl, and I like her tail and her horns, and the design of the wedding dress looks a little bit better. Not to mention she actually has the bouquet, so it just feels like the better figure. But what I think is their most exciting figure from Megahouse is actually Roberta, Nightmare Maid version, 1/7 scale for about 22,000 yen. They've been killing it with the Black Lagoon figures. Still haven't seen this show, so I know somebody's gonna give me shit for that. And I will watch it eventually when I find some goddamn time. But Roberta is awesome. I bet there is a bonus expression with her if you go to like their site and buy her. I don't think that's available here. I'll put it on screen for you guys if I find that. They talk about like fogging up the glasses here, which is definitely a cute touch, but I feel like she has another expression where she's looking a little bit like wilder and crazy and like what you would want at a Roberta, right? But she looks awesome here. Just a battle maid with 2 guns, shotgun in one hand, pistol in the other, showing off her sexy legs, and just, you know, looking mean while doing so. Like what more could you want? Here is a figure of Ryu Lion from Alice Glint for about 27,000 yen, which seems ridiculous if you ask me, though I do know she comes with like an extra faceplate because this is the limited edition, which I guess we could see if we go through the gallery as it loads. Mouth closed or mouth open, you can take off her cape if you would like to, and the base does look pretty cool down there with like the green wind blowing on both sides and the rocks all cracked and whatnot. Shibuya Scramble figure actually had some pretty big stuff, including the Shion Crystal Dress version for about 27,000 yen. Now, I don't really like the design of this one, but I do feel like if you did, the pricing is actually pretty good for once from Shibuya Scramble, considering like how aggressively wide this dress is billowing, and just like the fact that she's got her gun with her, and there's like a lot of layers to the dress. Don't really like her face though. I appreciate that she's not just like being cute here, but I feel like it looks a little wrong at the same time. Doesn't really remind me of the character. But I don't know, it's an interesting outfit for sure. We also had some Kankole figures, which is nuts to be saying in 2025, and both of these cost about 50,000 yen each. Cause like, they're massive. The whole ship is coming with these two. It's like the swan song for Kankole, I guess, because, I mean, after this, who's making figures of them? But yeah, we have Fuso Kai as well as Yamashiro Kai 2. both 2. I don't know if I said that right. The second 2 1/7 scales with these crashing waves under them. And like I said, the whole battleship is included with these girls. Moving on, there was a figure of Silveria Bless, swimsuit version, a 1/6 scale for about 32,000 yen from Belle Palette. I kind of just appreciate that this is actually a swimsuit figure for her, because the Q's Q1 didn't really feel like that. It was more like she wanted to still feel like a commander at the beach, so she brought like half of her uniform. Here she's just in a bikini with like bullets around her waist or something. It's kind of fun, right? The rose blue base is kind of strange. I don't feel like she really needed that. I don't see what that really adds to the figure, especially when it's like a beach figure. So why wouldn't that just be like water or something? I don't know. Maybe they're referencing one of the games. Hard to say, but I like it. I like it a lot, actually. She looks great. Moving on, we had a figure from Golden Head, the Warehouse Alco 1/7 scale, 20,000 yen. Is it winter themed? Is it summer themed? Hard to say. Kind of looks like she's wearing a swimsuit, but at the same time, a scarf and some snow boots. So I'm getting mixed signals here. Maybe it's just a wardrobe malfunction thing. I guess that would make sense to me. Either way though, it leaves very little to the imagination. Here's a figure from Blue Archive of Kaho, the Memorial Lobby version, from AnyGift for 26,000 yen. Now, this one has been in the works for quite a bit. I do remember asking myself, would she come with the shelves, the bookshelves and the drawers? And it's actually kind of nice to see that she does. Maybe not as many as in the original illustration, but it's quite a lot. And there's actually some fun stuff on those shelves and like little references and whatnot. And while it might not be the entire room, I do appreciate them committing a pretty decent amount to that artwork. You definitely can't ignore the curves of Kaho though. That side boob is pretty out there, as well as her butt being very pronounced with the way like her back is arched a little bit as she's leaning forward. So yeah, pretty sexy stuff. That's gonna do it for AnyGift. Jumping over to Orchid Seed, which is a company I usually don't talk about. Frankly, I don't see a lot of their figures very often. But Grisaya Phantom Trigger, Rena, metallic blue version, which kind of tells me that this is a recoloring. It looks like a figure from a while ago, though I can't exactly recall. So maybe I'll double check that for you guys. Here's a figure from Alpha Max of Takao, the Lessons of Spring version, a 1/4 scale for about 37,000 yen. Big Azur Lane figures seem to be the focus points of Alpha Max these days, and I'm definitely not against that. They're making some pretty good choices too in terms of like design and character choice, right? And we have seen this one in the past. I believe I said this last time, but I appreciate the attention to detail they're putting into their clothing so that it looks like you can actually see through it a little bit. Like it's such a thin material that you start to see the skin underneath that white dress that she's wearing and the leggings. You could definitely see what I'm talking about if you look at her a little bit closer. Considering this is a 1/4 scale though, that umbrella is actually going to be so goddamn big. What a pain in the ass that is going to be to like find space for on your shelf. So you better be prepared for that. Well, I just found out my camera and my screen weren't recording. Thankfully my voice was, but now the editing's gonna take a little bit longer. So we're gonna wrap it up. There's like 2 more figures I want to talk about, but I'm just going to show you guys the rest of them. Torturer Kaoru Usami, 1/6 scale from BB Buttons for 18,000 yen. We had Belle Fine's Fairy Tale Final Series figure of Lucy, the Wink version, for 16,000 yen. We had a figure from Azur Lane of Prinz Heinrich, Secret Boss of the Underworld, a 1/6 scale. Frankly, I think she looks awesome here. This outfit is killer. 34,000 yen though, made by Daiki Kogyo, so that one's definitely not cheap in the slightest, but I do love her look. From Hobby Sakura is the Club Activities Yuzuki Ayasakura for about 17,600 yen. That bra is definitely a new one, pretty much made out of like pearls, very lewd as well. But we move on. Here is a Reverse Studios figure of Nia, Hidden Forest version, for about 19,400 yen. Union Creative had a few figures this month. Sakura Mawabe illustration Summer Memory, 24,700 yen. Swimsuit figure, includes an inflatable ring and her sandals taken off, of course. Not too bad. That one seems pretty cute. We also had a figure from Chain Soldier of Tenka Izumo, 1/7 scale, 28,800 yen. That one seems pretty damn expensive. Not that they're not trying, I do like your uniform and the rocky base, but that is still a lot for a relatively simple looking figure. And then we jump over to Prime 1 Studios with their Oshinoko Eye. 40,000 yen for this eye figure is insanity, in my opinion. I don't even really think it looks that good. I kind of hate the colors. I like the base setup, but like the speakers look very cheap. They don't really look like speakers to me unless they're supposed to be something else. But considering she's on a stage singing, you would imagine those are supposed to be like playing audio, right? But I don't know, they look like toys to me. But really my biggest issue is just like the colors they went with for her dress, and her hair is really dark. I guess I like the balloons. They're very shiny. They look good, probably the best looking part of the figure, but I don't find this one very appealing. It's not like the outfit's not cute. That's a cute expression. I'll give it up for that, but I just think the color palette's a bit drab when it's not supposed to be. It's just like some odd choices in my opinion. If that's supposed to be her signature on the base though, I'll give it up for that as well. I think that's a nice touch too. But we did have one more figure from them, the Prime 1 Studio Prisma Wing Hyperdimension Neptunia Purple Heart Chaos version for about 43,000 yen. It's not a cheap figure either by any means, but it does feel a little bit more justified in my head, and I also just think it looks better overall. It is kind of a shame you need to like support the thrusters in the back with these supports. Considering you have the big pole over here that's going basically up her butt, why can't you stick this one to that and then the other one to her knee? That looks pretty close and looks pretty seamless from this angle, yet you still need to support her with these two extra rods over here. Either way though, I do think these like futuristic and cyber elements look pretty sleek across the board, the wings being like razor thin and like her arms and legs having this like jet black paint job to them with like a little bit of purple trim. It's great stuff. I think her design is wonderful, but also it's 43,000 yen and it's not like the most seamless figure out there with the way they're propping it up. And I figured I would save this one for last because I remember a lot of people being pretty excited about her. Epic 7's New Moon Luna figure, 1/7 scale for about 27,000 yen. She looks pretty tall. If we scroll down to the bottom, it says 317 millimeters, so even at the 1/7 scale, this figure's got some height. And unfortunately, I think we're in another scenario where the photos are gonna be pretty zoomed out. Not gonna get a great look at her face, but maybe I'll put that in post for you guys. But at least for me right now, it's still coming across that she's like a pretty powerful looking character while also looking extremely sexy at the same time. Very long legs, rather large bust, right? Get a good look at her butt from the other angles too that they show throughout this gallery. She's got this massive tail too. Maybe she's a dragon girl. You let me know. She's also got some horns, but those don't really look like dragon horns to me, so I can't say for sure. She also has this sense of like elegance, I suppose, a little bit of fluidity within like her movement, balanced on one foot, but seems fully in control, holding the weapon with both arms, ready to swing it whenever she needs to. Very pretty stuff, but yeah, 26,700 does not seem too bad considering she looks pretty massive. But that's going to do it for our pre-order roundup for December. If you want to support this channel, be sure to like this video, and I do have a Patreon now if you want to support me monetarily that way. Either way though, I'll see you very soon for the next video, and I guess I'll catch you guys later. See ya.